changing gears to talk about growth. I'm bringing on the growth expert. If you aren't listening to his podcast, you will subscribe by the end of this, I certainly hope. Kunle, how's it going?
I'm very well, Derric. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm really excited to have you. Thanks for coming in. It was a little bit short notice, and I'm glad you could take the time this evening for you to hop in here with me.
It's ever a pleasure. Ever a pleasure. I jumped at the opportunity.
But before we get into it, let's give the podcast plug and maybe even speak a little bit to your background for those that don't know you.
Okay, where do I start with regards to my background? Do I go to 2005, or do I just start when I really got into e-commerce in 2014? Basically, I was an SEO guy for many years, and I needed guidance. I was lost. I was doing SEO for all sorts of businesses. And then we ran an event, and I realized that the most engaging just participants at that SEO event were the e-commerce businesses. There was an e-commerce business, selling kind of like photography equipment. There was another one. They were doing like drag racing gear. There are lots of people. And then I made a decision to go into e-commerce, and I was lost again. And then I started the podcast in 2014. And when I started it in 2014, it was just to learn from the smartest people, around, whether they were leading, marketing, leading engineering, leading, leading e-commerce businesses. I wanted to have conversations with them. And so I tapped into like my affiliate marketing roots, back in the days. And I used to promote for e-commerce businesses as an affiliate marketer. And those are my first sorts of guests on the show, the founders of these companies. There were small companies doing well. And that time there was no Shopify, and it was largely Magento. And I saw the tsunami, a witness to tsunami right at the front edge, cutting edge of Shopify. And it's been an interesting growing landscape. I mean, I cannot compare the landscape in 2017 to what it is today. So that's my story. So basically, if you tune into 2x e-commerce, you're just going to listen to smart minds in e-commerce. We handpick everyone and their remit. Before I have a pre-interview with every guest, and I tell them that, look, if my listeners, my audience, who I cherish really much, very, very much, do not, get a growth experiment, not necessarily a growth principle, but an experiment they can test on their store, please, we're not going to hit record. And when they convince me, I hit record, and we just drop value, really, e-commerce value.
I love it. That's awesome. Definitely one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. And when you talk about the landscape, yeah, the changing landscape is something that, of course, I pay attention to, especially on the technology side. Mm-hmm. We could spend all day talking about that, but you mentioned doing affiliate marketing in the early days, and we're obviously talking about a changing landscape here, but maybe think back to those early days and give me one of the biggest mistakes either you or one of the brands you were working with had made. This is back then, because these mistakes are still being made today.
No, it's still fresh in my memory, because it was summer. My son was just born. My first son, he's 10. He's 10 now.
Yeah.
It's 2011, and I was doing affiliate marketing. And what I wanted to do personally was to consolidate the entire baby industry, inspired by the arrival of my son, in one single website. So in fact, that was the real trigger to e-commerce, really, if I really think about it, because what then happened was that I ran Magento essentially, and I created this site with 100,000 SKUs, 80 to 100,000 SKUs.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, lots of categorization. I learned, information architecture off the back of that. And we went really well. It was like traffic. There was money coming in, and then Google came with Panda, right? And 8,000 visits a day went down to 80, 100, 200. It was not viable. And yeah, that got me. And I realized that, and this is not to throw shade at the SEO industry. I love you guys. But the issue with that was that I realized that we were working for Google. We were working towards like trying to hack the algorithms put by Google's engineers, and I thought, okay, there has to be a better way of doing things. And then that took me down this route of a brand focused approach, because Google wants the best for its users, and the brands that send the most reliable signals from a customer experience standpoint is what their AI is engineered to source for. So it's really down to value to the market for long-term gains. And on that, from that principle, I've just learned, just hack for the long haul, be a saver, build equity with whatever you're doing, whether it's Facebook advertising, build equity with organic, build a reputation, both on site from an experience standpoint and off site. When I mean off site, I also mean, what happens after they give you their money, what do you do?
Yeah.
And, pre is, what do they experience from the ads they see through to from the expectations you've built and the ads they see through to and the word, the word of mouth they've gathered, online, to what you deliver on the site. How do you roll out a welcome mat, red carpet, and you onboard them like they were your very first customers. And if you look at every customer like they're your first, you wouldn't get it wrong.
Yeah, well, it was a lot to unpack here. The first thing is, sounds like you went from a black hat SEO to a white hat SEO, and thank you, Panda, for bringing him to the good side.
Yeah.
Secondly, the site was completely dependent on one channel. So I think the lesson here is there can be a channel that grows the business, but diversification needs to happen quickly in order to mitigate risk. And we hear this a lot. We've had acquisition experts on that say that channel diversification increases the valuation upon exit of an e-commerce brand. So if you're just relying on content or just relying on advertising, the brand value is significantly diminished. So channel diversification, I think, is another kind of big takeaway there. And then you mentioned the offsite experience. There's a lot that we could go into there. Give me perhaps your favorite growth hack of like the offsite experience. Like, is it something that happens with the packaging? Is it
it's
SMS?
unboxing? It's
Yeah,
unboxing. It's the unboxing hack. And the reason I find it, so when they unbox, right, just think about the steps before unboxing. Did the shipping times, the expected shipping times, actually match or even surpass what you put? So I said it's 2 days shipping. Did it arrive in 2 days or even less? One, that gives a happy customer. You're surprised and you delight them if you say 3 and then you deliver in 2. Now, when it gets to them, and they're excited with the unboxing experience, make sure you get them to make sure you have word of mouth inserts, stickers, that trigger. Also, like communication that you're going to send via email or SMS anyway on their packaging. In the sales world, you never really get responses on the first sort of email you send out to potential prospects. It's usually the follow-up that triggers the sale. So look at it as a very connected, coherent message that you'd send in your post, your post purchase email, whether it's for a review. Trigger a call to action in the unboxing experience and do it multiple times. You could do it on the box, you could do it in inserts, and you could even, some people have sent videos, as in actually given, but that's a bit of an overkill. But that's another sort of hack. Try and increase the frequency for a request on a call to action. The call to action is not just that buy button. The call to action is telling other potential customers, their friends, family, colleagues, about the experience with you.
Yeah, I love it. And I think that the review component is in there somewhere. It depends on some products. Some products you can get value from seeing the product. So maybe like fashion, you touch it, you feel it, you try it on, you see how it fits, and the review component is there. Other products, the value happens over time, maybe in one way or the other. I don't even know if I have a specific example necessarily, but I met with a founder yesterday, completely dedicated to video reviews. It's called VideoWise, the tool. And so he would say that you want that video review right at that unboxing experience. And one thing to add to the power of unboxing is if you can create an unboxing challenge, depending on your brand. If you have if the unboxing experience is anything more than, you know, casual, if it can be exciting, you can invite people to have an unboxing experience, show that in video format, get that video. You can stitch multiple of these videos together, becomes great for a social ad and for social proof. So yeah, exactly. And repurposing to your own social accounts. And then you're tagging the people who made it and they're becoming part of the brand. So as we saw with Audrey earlier in the Facebook talk on how to, first there was discovery and inclusivity, of course, meaning like gender and diversity, but also I think including customers into the brand is another kind of type of inclusivity. So all things that I'm certainly bullish on. All right, so we covered a failure from the past. Let's talk about a more recent failure. And I like to focus on failures, at least to start, because once we know failures, we can avoid them forever, hopefully. It's easier to avoid failures than it is to find success sometimes.
Thoughts are racing through my head now. A failure.
Whether it was your fault specifically, you were running a growth test with one of your clients, or whether
it was this one.
I'll
tell you this one. This is very recent. So, very little of what I do, these are legacy clients, is like performance marketing, Facebook advertising. I have like a handful, and I work with a small team on very specific D2C, businesses. And we were experimenting on a membership sort of. This business is built on a YouTube channel, and they just hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube. It's a small business. They're doing like 15 million or so, and then if you add what they do with resellers, they're like a $25 million or so company. And we said, okay, we know we have a 5%, like this 5%, they use their products, every year, they book the dates, if not more. So we decided to create it's more like an incentive program. It's a special, so that they always had an incentive program. This was a membership, like a Prime membership. And for $100, you get 5%. For $100 of subscription per year, you get 5% discount. You get free expedited shipping, so faster shipping.
I love it.
You get early access to releases. So we got a team of web developers to put together the landing page, right? So I went through to like that hacky long form where you're telling a story, it just goes forever and ever. So we went for that
sales
format.
page. Yeah.
A sales page, exactly.
Yeah.
You got it. So a squeeze page, sales page with a call to action. Shopify, by the way, Shopify needs to do a lot about how it sells subscriptions. It's still not perfect, but we need to. Well, that's a discussion for another day.
The API rollout was pretty bad, and it hurt a lot of brands. And somehow Recharge still raised $200 and something million in the middle of literally having to lock people down and not being able to take new customers. But anyways,
I don't know.
I think they're gonna figure it out. They've gotten really close. I think they'll be figured out by the end of the year, if not.
We almost thought about replatforming, but there's just the loyalty with Shopify for this business is, forever. So we didn't, because the Shopify business, setups that just do this perfectly seamlessly. Magento. Anyway, so we built out this page on an app called Pagefly.
Yeah.
And we set that page to home.
Okay.
So
I get why.
On the soft launch date, where like we hit publish, very, 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 happy with it, and confident that we're going to and then basically that squeeze page just took up the entire website, all the redirects. And
Yeah, there's
yeah,
SEO concerns and a
that
few other
was
things.
terrible because they were losing money. They were losing money, as in the frequency of sales. So we were panicking. We tried to roll back the template, and we tried to roll back. We hacked it. We got an emergency ticket with the web dev team. It was like urgent, paid them an arm and a leg for urgent attention, because the website was in a state of, anyway, basically, to have curtailed this, we should just installed Rewind.
Yeah.
Right.
They were just on earlier, and Pagefly is on tomorrow, by the way. Clearly not Pagefly's problem. It's not Pagefly's
No, it's
fault.
our problem. It was our problem.
Yeah,
it was our problem.
Pagefly doesn't recommend you just swap out your homepage for a sales page.
Exactly. So yeah, that was a cock up. Everybody was upset.
Here are the two things that the one thing that I talk to every merchant doing over about 20,000, 30,000 website visitors, split testing. Can you split test your product detail page? Pagefly will actually show you how to do that tomorrow, but you can split test your homepage. Now, here's what I would do. You might roll out the old homepage versus the sales page in a true Google optimized split test. And this would allow you to have seen the drop in conversion rate and known that this would have prevented the whole thing, right? So we would have had evidence that the sales page is going to underperform, and then we have to rethink how we're going to do it or roll it out.
Yeah.
So I have seen this happen time and time again. On the flip side, for one of my biggest failures when I was working in-house in a brand, we had a core subscription product, and that was the only thing we really sold. Below it on the homepage, very simple homepage, we had the 3-month, 6-month, and 12-month options as well as the 1-month option. So we had 4 options below, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing, just different pricing, right?
Right.
So I said to the team, I think if we just remove that, and then on the next page of the checkout, we can incentivize through a drop down people buying annual over regular, this is the best deal. And we can show it to them in a different way after they've started the chain reaction of committing to purchasing. I think that'll be a lot less confusing than showing people 4 options on the homepage that are all essentially the same thing. And I couldn't get buy-in for this. I couldn't get buy-in for the test. So I ended up recreating an exact replica of the homepage in Unbounce. And when we drove Facebook traffic to it, we saw that the one without the options increased conversion rate by something like 12% or something like that. It was quite massive. And technically, because of that structure, we weren't able to test the second stage of whether they would upgrade or whatever. But we knew that we got 12% increase in total subscribers, and percentage wise, the number of people that hit those other options was a lot smaller anyways. So 12% at the revenue we were doing was about $100,000 a month in revenue. I took the results to the team and I said, here's the proof. Can I change it? And they said no. So every month I said to them, we just lost $100,000 this month. And they go, what happened? Oh, because we didn't implement that test I told you guys about. And so I said it over and over again until they fired me for being so annoying. So that's my story.
And that's a classic, data versus consensus,
I wasn't focused on getting buy-in. I just had answers.
Just buy-in. Yeah, where the most paid person in the room has to say, the highest paid person in the room has to say, rather than data dictating next steps. So, but yeah, you are where you are. And, it turned out really well.
So split testing, very important. Making major changes to the site without knowing the impact of them, arbitrary changes, right? So like there are other people, some people sometimes switching your product lines, or even switching your product detail page's main image or something like that can absolutely have a drastic impact that you just weren't expecting on the store. Sometimes we add a widget to the site, and that widget creates the third pop-up on the page, and you're like, okay, this is too much things coming at me. There's all sorts of little things and tweaks that I think we make in a effort to do well, and then we look at our results a month later, we're like, why are we losing sales, and why are we losing the post-purchase experiences? Why aren't we getting more reviews? And it's like, well, we didn't have a framework for testing and figuring out if all the levers we pulled last month were good levers or bad levers.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So
It's iteration, really. You have to continuously iterate. If you buy a Range Rover 10 years ago, they've iterated, they've learned, and then they've upgraded all the parts. Cars, in general, anything that's engineered, any system should continuously be optimized. And testing is where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe we're already getting close to time. We started a little bit late, so we can give ourselves a couple
No
extra
worries.
minutes.
Happy to be here.
So, we're here to talk about digitally native vertical brands and how we really pioneer ourselves in a niche market with a differentiated product, being digital first, but of course the opportunity to expand later. What is it that and it's also, I think that it's quite clear that this is it's an emerging concept. It's emerged. We have large established brands. To me, it even feels like it started with Dollar Shave Club, but I'm sure it started before that. There are other brands to think of, other brands like Away coming out of the woodwork, and then you've got Timbuktu, Bombas for socks. You've got all these, Walby Parker for glasses. What is it? What's the appeal? Why do you think people are loving this over Walmart, Amazon, Target? Why do you think there's a consumer shift essentially that opens the door?
Why do kids not like to hang out on Facebook?
I see. It's just not cool anymore.
Yeah, it's generational things. People want new stuff. So and that's why, in order to stay relevant, a lot of the conglomerates, are acquiring, these upstarts, because they need to stay relevant with those acquisitions. Facebook did it for Instagram. So in the CPG brand, you just don't want to. Yeah, there's the nostalgia of eating the same cereals you had when you were a kid, but when you hear about the environmental impact, the sugar, you're just thinking that the world could be a better place. Let me be that change. So founders that have figured out that through their products they can convince the market that things could be better, are winning the game. And if you have advertising dollars and funding to really amplify that message, then you become potentially a unicorn. And that's not very, very, very common. But purpose is everything. Purpose is everything, and just showing that you can change. You can be. Apple did it in '84.
Maybe again in the late 90s and
early and again, so it's really having that, and then that's why I'm really excited about crowdfunding, that world first concept, because it's always about new, on crowdfunding platforms. But yeah, I think that is really the reason.
From an economic standpoint, because I'm a pseudo economist, I studied it in college.
Same here.
It shouldn't. Yeah, this is what we do now, right? Because sometimes to me it doesn't even make sense. Like it's the same way that like Tesla shouldn't have been able to enter the car market because of this fierce competition in industry. Like, why would Dollar Shave Club ever beat Gillette? And it's, what I mean? Like there are some of these industries where it's like, why, like how, like you shouldn't actually be able to win here because the competitors, they have industry scales. They have more money than you. They can just outbuy you customer wise. They have better product lines. And then all of a sudden you come in, you have a unique social brand with a purpose, like you said, and people relate to it and it works and it grows. So it's, to me, sometimes it feels counterintuitive, but it also feels like very right, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think the second bit to that layer is just being available on the platforms, that, under 40s hang out on, even under 50s, so we're spending more, and the conglomerates didn't really see this. They saw Google, in terms of like they're all over Google. They spend so much on Google, but they didn't really see the ownership of conversations, genuine conversations, online, that, triggered solutions in
They didn't treat every customer like their first customer.
Nope.
So
Nope.
there you go. That's where the door opened
Yeah.
from that brand perspective, is that the younger brands that understood social media better made real relationships with people that I think, in the age of the internet, real relationships were becoming, harder to find. Everything started to be more passed through. And the larger companies cared about top line revenue. They looked at large graphs. They didn't look at individual users. So, all right, I have 4 quick yes or no's, and we're maybe with one line follow-ups for you, and then we'll move on into the next session.
All right.
Direct mailers, good idea or bad idea?
Yes, good idea.
How would you do it? Just like
I'll use it as a follow-up channel to email communication the data implications on that. I'll use handwritten notes, and I would collaborate with brands that I think are at my level.
Okay,
so
nice.
In the UK, you have brands. So we have some like really big DTC businesses. There's one called Naked Wines, and what they do is they think they're in America too. They work directly with small wineries. Small wine. What's the word again? Yards. They work with small wine yards. Let's put it that way. And the direct to consumer business. So things like other sorts of D2C companies just team up with them in their delivery. So when you get a package, you're getting not just Naked Wines, you're getting craft beer, you're getting other brands with very high affinity and reach. So there's synergy. I think you should build synergy.
So there's partnership opportunities,
absolutely.
and then bring that to the direct mail channel.
I think
I'm sure it goes to the rest of the business as well. But I like
absolutely.
how you tie those together.
Find 5 brands and then just cross sell.
All right. Should I get on TikTok right now?
Yes, to learn it. And then after that, make a decision. If you're selling to, under 30s, yes, as in absolutely.
All right. Amazon. Now we're talking about digitally native vertical brands. We're talking about direct to consumer for the most part, but Amazon is our double-edged sword. Clearly increases revenue, but is that good for us?
Yeah, it depends on what you sell. It depends on what you sell. It really depends on what you sell. Some people ethically do not shop on Amazon, but they're becoming a minority. Like they're actually, they're unicorns. So and this is anecdotal. We're an Amazon family. There are many Amazon families out there. Some people who have the convenience of time, and justify to it with consciousness and all that, will just prefer to support smaller brands. I think the ecosystem is there for both. And if you're looking to exit, longer term, it's just another channel. What I would say is probably don't expose your entire, SKU list, your entire catalog to Amazon. There might be some sort of, you could create, or you could put out some sort of gateway, products on there that reel them into your entire suite. So on Amazon, make sure you have your inserts, have a direct to consumer play in your Amazon inventory to bring people through to your store. It could be an activation channel. Just don't put all your baskets, all your eggs in that basket. And if you really want to control the experience, then avoid Amazon. But it limits your choice, because they're taking 50 cents and 50 p on the dollar and on the pound at the moment in both the UK and the US. So
yeah, it's a lot. I'll add one kind of comparison here is that if you're a discoverable product, like a kind of an innovative discoverable product, stay direct to consumer. If you're a searchable product, that might lend you more towards that searchable product being up in the Amazon search kind of ecosystem there. And so we'll leave that one there. Final one, discounts, good idea or bad idea?
It depends. Great idea over particular event. So don't make it a reason to buy, from you. That being said, the brands, again, the Naked Wines I was telling you about, because they're selling subscriptions, they discount, upfront. So discounting should be a magnet to get people to subscribe to you, to try your product and be convinced that so long as you have replenishability, yes, discounts. But I worked with another sort of discounted so these guys sell tiles in the UK. They never ever discount, never have. But there's value. They sell at a value price, and it's kind of like a mutual respect where what you get from them is 10% less than going to your garden center, your local tile shop. And so that's the advantage, and they never discount because they also know that their purchase frequency is in years, right? It could be like, I'm doing tiles for my bathroom and I'm not going to do my kitchen till 2 years or a year. It could be at one go high AOV, but they're not, discounted. So if there's frequency, like monthly frequency, or there's quarterly frequency, and you're very convinced about the experience and the utility of your product, then you can discount up front, just to get people in, and then also measure that discount to frequency conversion. Very, very important to look at the retention rate, the CLV and retention rate of discounted customers. Let the data sort of dictate your next steps or decision.
Yeah, too many people aren't doing. They're just kind of choosing numbers arbitrarily. And ironically, our next presenter, he's not going to talk about it today. He knows a thing or two about how to analyze discount code results with their other platform, which is called Price Stack. But all right, Kunle, we're out of time. We're well over time. I've got to send you off. I love this line from you. Don't make discounts a reason to buy from the store. Just use them as, like you said, a foot in the door offer, but not the reason that people come back to you over and over again. If only we could always take that advice to heart, I think there'd be a lot more profit on the table for some of the brands listening today. Kunle, thanks so much. Everyone, check out 2xecommerce.com. Download the podcast, subscribe. You're going to love it. Thanks, Kunle.
Derric, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on here. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. All right.